Hey there, and welcome back to your daily dose of anime recaps. And in this video, we're going to be covering The Game That I Came From. Our protagonist, Ling Ce, is a lifelong gamer obsessed with a game called Heavenland. This virtual reality immersive experience is set in a medieval society. You rank up by defeating dungeons, and you test yourself through PvP in the Guild Wars. Back in the real world, however, there's a group of people called the Awakened who have leveled up so much in-game that their real-life bodies have evolved. Rich, powerful, and famous, everyone, including Ling Ce, dreams of one day achieving this. However, despite being extremely high-leveled, Ling has never experienced it. One day, after playing the game and entering a portal, he realizes that he has traveled back in time to the game's launch. With his acquired skills, experience, and knowledge, he realizes he has the opportunity to become the highest leveled player in the game and to finally become awakened. However, there are going to be some serious obstacles in his way, his enemies. Will he finally achieve his dreams, or is he going to be resigned to a fate of mediocrity again? Let's kick it off with the first chapter, but before we begin, don't forget to become a subscriber and hit that bell button so you never miss an update from us. We begin by meeting our protagonist, worried about being late for his first day at university and seemingly hanging upside down. We see that he's been captured by his bullies and tied up. They belittle him, reprimanding him of his trash background, going as far as to make fun of the fact that he's an orphan. Ling Ce is his name. His bully, a classmate called Wei Gao, mocks his avatar in-game, saying he looks far too cool for Ling in real life. With that, he fires a rocket punch into his chest, and blood spurts out of the unfortunate hero's mouth. It turns out that Wei Gao is an awakened, a name to signify the next step of human evolution. If in the game of Heavenland a player manages to reach the maximum level, it's possible that they will experience the growth of their real-life character to the same level. This second evolution gives you skills and abilities in real life otherwise thought impossible. And the younger and more powerful an awakened is, the more valuable they are to their nation. They become the elite. Meanwhile, one of Wei Gao's bully friends warns that Ling might die if he is hurt anymore, and that they should probably go a little easier on him for now. However, the bully retorts that he doesn't care not one bit, and that he shouldn't be worried about such little things such as Ling. Then, the bully notices a piercing look in Ling's eyes, and he unleashes a powerful attack, the rippling war cry, which uses fear and intimidation to weaken an opponent, before yelling at him and throwing him back. He questions who dares look at an awakened like that, clearly having a sense of entitlement about him. And meanwhile, our protagonist wishes that one day he can get to this level of strength. Later on, the bullies leave, and Ling returns to his home. He showers off the blood and sweat before plugging himself into Heavenland, an immersive game that lets you live in an alternative reality. In the game, Ling's character, thankfully named the same, is a max-level thief in the main city of Kasva. Luckily, being a talented gamer helped him to catch up quickly to the veterans with early access, and he's clearly put in plenty of effort to reach this stage. Currently ranked 3.96 millionth in the world, at one point he was up to the top 100,000, though that seems like a distant memory now. It's clear that becoming an awakened is all Ling wants, though it seems like a pipe dream for him now. We dive deeper into the world of Heavenland, where we see what looks like a party of warriors. Their leader, a silver-haired witch, discusses their current situation. Their party seems to be in a tight spot, and they have no choice but to recruit strangers for their next mission. However, she reminds them that she was once a stranger joining their party, and this seems to convince them. Eventually, they meet Ling, the thief. One of the largest warriors, clearly strong and with a big ego, is rude to Ling, despite our protagonist's own kindness. He introduces himself as a solo player, without any allegiance to any guild or all-class alliance, which is where the most skilled players gather. While Ling is technically good enough to apply for the all-class alliance, he couldn't afford the initiation fee. Another one of the party members belittles him for this, and there's clearly discontent at Ling's arrival. They go into the teleporter, Ling first, though before the others can follow, something has gone terribly wrong. Assuming it's some sort of system error, they're unable to pass through the teleporter. Meanwhile, Ling realizes that his body has begun breaking apart, and even when he tries to leave the game, he can't. As he approaches his impending fate, he laughs at the irony of the bug and how nothing goes right in his life. However, his anxiety soon becomes relief, and he looks forward to the possibility of disappearing from this reality. A while later, after Ling's account has disappeared from in-game, he wakes up in a dark, candlelit room. There's an old man tending to him, who says he's back in the real world, and when he looks in a mirror, he's shocked to realize that he still has the face of his in-game persona. A TV report in the background talks about Heavenland having released 3 months ago, and Ling suddenly realizes that he's gone back 3 years in time to 2060. While shocked at first, Ling suddenly realizes the potential of his time travel, and having gone back 3 years in time would give him an absolutely broken advantage over the other players, possibly allowing him to become a godlike player. He dreams of becoming an awakened and starting his own guild, and this time around he pledges to do everything. A kindly gentleman of elderly age offers food to Ling, the young man whose hunger is a gnawing pit in the aftermath of an inexplicable incident. When questioned about his total lack of companionship, the seemingly innocuous inquiry stirs in Ling the echoes of a loneliness that has followed him since birth. Memories of his parents resurface, memories of them either willingly leaving him behind or striving to erase him from their minds. His melancholy, as palpable as a shadow, catches the attention of the old man, whose name remains unknown to us. Moved by his profound sadness, the elderly stranger attempts to comfort him. He notices that Ling gravitated toward the slums, a place where the destitute find solace, and reveal to him the depth of his own personal tragedy. He reminisces about a time when his own son was alive, before the boy's life was claimed after becoming too engrossed in the game known as Heavenland. His son's fixation with achieving the state of awakened led him to neglect all of his physical needs, ultimately causing his demise. The old man's resentment towards the game is tangible, a stark contrast to the deep-seated affection Ling holds for it. However, the older gentleman expresses his gratitude for this reminder of his son, assuring Ling that he will always find a welcome refuge in his home. But the most precious gift he bestows upon Ling is a physical link to his deceased son, the boy's first-generation Heavenland headset, a tool that Ling intends to utilize to ascend to the pinnacle of the gaming ranks. Ling solemnly pledges to the old man that he will fulfill the lost dreams of his son. Energized with renewed purpose, he prepares to embark on a journey that will irrevocably alter the course of his life. He logs in and initiates a fresh ID. Faced with the choice of humans, elves, and beasts, he opts for the race he identifies with the most, human. A crucial decision now confronts him: the selection of his class, with warrior, mage, archer, thief, and priest on offer. Ling leans into his instincts and settles on the role of a human thief. Embracing his decision, he allocates all his initial points to agility and begins mastering backstab, an attack seemingly traditional to his chosen class. Soon, he propels himself into the fantastical world of the game, finding himself amidst the grandeur of the human city, the beating heart of Casfito. Thrilled by the prospect of gaining an edge over the other players, he notes with a tint of surprise that the game is teeming with life, an impressive achievement for something that's only 3 months old. Seeking to map his path forward, he decides to check who the #1 ranked player is at the moment, Budong Onwen, the Emperor, as adoring fans hail himself with any guilds. Seeing his chance, Ling plans to leverage his past life's experiences to surpass Budong, to secure the coveted top spot, and eventually attain the God Skin, thus becoming the first awakened. Our protagonist, Ling, finds himself yet again in a town that's no stranger to him. He's made several visits in the past, and with each of those, he's taken aback by the sheer volume of people who congregate there. His destination, aptly named the Beginner's Village, is a hotbed of activity with traders hawking dubious weapons, players asking questions that could only be deemed as naive, and others who attempt to cobble together their own teams. Ling stands back, observing the new players falling into the same traps that he once stepped into. But now, equipped with knowledge and experience, he knows better. For anyone wondering, Ling shares his insight. Leveling up in this game isn't a difficult task. Don't fall for other players aiming to make a quick profit here and there. Simultaneously, we learn that the beginner's village only permits players between level 1 and 5, thereby making it unlikely to procure any substantial goods from vendors here. Watching the charades and farce, Ling sees players enticed into adding attractive female characters to their missions. Players at level 5 are viewed as gods in the beginner village. The wisdom Ling has garnered from his past adventures here aids him to steer clear of the pitfalls that trip up others. Elucidating the party system in Heavenland, Ling discloses if you're from a party with higher level members, the size of the party is curtailed to maintain balance of strength. In the game, there's a cap on the number of monsters that can be slain, and players have to wait for them to respawn before engaging them again. Such a structure often ensnares players at lower levels due to their impatience. Heavenland doesn't offer a linear narrative, but it does provide numerous missions for you to venture through. Regardless, Ling is aware of the most efficient route to level 5, something that escapes the knowledge of many players. Ling finds himself in a shop run by an attractive NPC. The presence of a level 1 player sends shockwaves among the other customers. He requests for a speed enhancement scroll and a one-time use grappling hook, and is met with mockery from others who find his purchases ludicrous. Unfazed, Ling pays and exits quickly, taking a moment to tease the beginners who had laughed at him. When they confess to taking nearly 2 weeks to reach level 3, Ling playfully hints that he'll be out of the village swiftly. Soon, Ling reaches the majestic Sunfall Peak in the main city Casvito mountain range. Here, in the seclusion provided by the towering peak shadows, he readies himself for swift leveling up. To his surprise, he discovers a few people have already reached there. The visitors discuss a mission that involves scaling the peak within a span of 10 minutes, a challenge deemed nearly impossible due to a wide chasm obstructing easy passage up the mountain. Undeterred, Ling approaches an NPC to commence the mission, while other players deride him for his audacious attempt given his low level. The plot twist is that Ling has allocated all his points towards agility for this very purpose. Accepting the challenge, he starts his mission, and without missing a beat, he embarks on the quest with an unfaltering resolve and swift determination. Our main man Ling whizzes up the mountainside, taking a different route than the one folks expected. He blazes through the shadowy, dangerous forest where the most formidable monsters often spawn. As foreseen, he runs into a group of these monsters without delay, employing his backstab ability to take them out of the picture quickly. It's interesting to note, he isn't simply using backstab for combat. Instead, he uses it as a means of fast travel, exploiting its ability to let him teleport a short distance from one monster to another. As he weaves his way through the forest, Ling cleverly uses the very monsters that posed a threat to him as his aides. The onlookers who've been watching this spectacle unfold are convinced that he won't last more than a few seconds. With meticulous precision, he sets his master plan into motion. He readies his speed scroll and the grappling hook, preparing for a daring crossing over a vast chasm. He delivers a backstab to one of the creatures, using the force to propel himself into the air above the gaping chasm. Swiftly, he throws his grappling hook, securing it onto a sturdy tree. He uses this leverage to catapult himself higher into the air and casts another backstab on a distant monster, teleporting it in an instant. In an astonishing feat, he completes the mission in less than 5 minutes, shaving off half the usual time. Awaiting him on the peak is the old man, visibly impressed by Ling's determination and ingenuity. So much so that he rewards Ling with the Proof of the Glorious, a shining golden insignia symbolizing the glorious. The old man then entrusts him with a secret mission. The final gift, the Pinnacle Set, a special set of armor that dishes out a whopping 1000% damage to enemies of level 5 and below, while also offering him a protective shield against them. However, there's a catch. The armor vanishes once the player hits level 5, meaning it needs to be used wisely. Proudly donning the spoils of his daring journey, Ling then questions the enigmatic old man about his true identity. As expected, the old man remains a mystery, refusing to disclose anything. He does, however, make a promise. One day, Ling will uncover his identity, provided his determination is truly reaching the peak. In the end, the old man teleports Ling down the mountain. Back on level ground, Ling now has the perfect opportunity to bask in his victory, right in front of those who had been hoping for his failure. After a magical journey, they finally plant their feet at the base of the massive mountain. Their arrival is met with disbelief from the other players who, quite frankly, did not expect to see him still breathing. Suddenly, the figure draped in mystery calls upon a mystical portal. In the blink of an eye, he vanishes, leaving everyone in awe of the spectacle they just witnessed. This forces Ling into an unexpected position where he has to clarify the situation to the spectators around him, trying to satisfy their curiosity. As if that was not enough, Ling takes it upon himself to unravel the types of missions available for the players. Missions are of various natures, including bounty missions, encounter missions, and unique missions, to name a few. But that's not all. Missions can also be further classified based on whether they are team missions or individual missions. As for the difficulty, missions are grouped into 5 tiers: low, intermediate, upper, special, and insanity, allowing for varying degrees of challenge. An interesting incident occurs when a young girl, adorable in her appearance, makes an attempt to entice Ling. He appears a bit confused, evidently unsure of the right way to handle her forward behavior. Her advances stir up a tempest amongst the men she was traveling with. One of them, in a fit of rage, even dares to throw down a challenge for a one-on-one fight to Ling. But our hero, demonstrating wisdom over aggression, chooses to turn down the confrontation. Despite all this, Ling remains focused on his objective, his unique mission. His path leads him to an ant army basin, an intimidating level 5 map teeming with dangers. The scene unfolds where we see a group of warriors locked in a fierce battle against adversaries. Among the chatter, we hear one of them proudly announcing that they've managed to level up in a span of 3 days, a truly commendable feat. It seems there is a rule in this world that restricts players from venturing into maps that are of higher levels than that of their own. Therefore, the fact that these players have ascended to level 5 in the middle circle speaks volumes about their prowess. But they are left in awe when they see Ling, despite being a level 1 player, holding his ground firmly against the hostile forces. Then, without any hesitation, Ling decides to venture deeper into the battlefield, aiming straight for the inner circle, a territory that even more experienced warriors refrain from entering. Rewind the clock back a quarter of an hour, just before Ling makes his grand entrance into the ant army basin. We find him stationed at a pit stop, among a crowd of other players, all in deep thought over their upcoming assault on the basin. Ling silently curses his luck, for with his pinnacle armor, the basin would be an ideal training ground, chiefly because annihilating foes with a higher rank than you rewards you with extra experience points. At the same time, a scene of chaos unfolds. A formidable woman is in the act of choking another. The victim, as it turns out, is a notorious player with the red name, a mark signifying a killer. Possessing such a name means you part ways with your experience points upon death, as well as your belongings. Rumor has it, the red-named girl was forced into a corner and had to extinguish the life of a teammate to make it out of the basin's inner circle. Our protagonist, Ling, unexpectedly comes upon this violent encounter, sparking curiosity among the players. Their gaze shifts to him, bewildered as to why he chose to appear here. The group's captain steps forward and confronts him, taunting him for being out of his depth. In an unexpected twist, she even goes as far as to offer him a few survival tips, something that Ling welcomes, even if her estimation of his capabilities is somewhat off the mark. Nevertheless, he surprises her with an ultimatum. He pledges to venture into the feared inner circle and retrieve their misplaced gear, under the condition that they repurchase it from him. Hesitantly, the leader of the Nebulous Guild accepts his proposal, harboring doubts that their lost equipment would ever resurface. Undeterred, he plunges headfirst into the inner circle, vowing to himself that today he would ascend to level 5. Once inside, Ling swiftly arrives at the central circle. More players stare in awe as they witness how effortlessly he eradicates adversaries and absorbs their assaults. Eventually, he advances to level 2 and seizes the moment to eliminate the remaining enemies within the inner circle. He enters as a level 1, but mere moments pass before he's climbed to level 5. Deep within the inner circle, Ling stumbles upon the staff that the Nebulous Guild had misplaced earlier. Later on that night, the pinnacle set disappears as he's no longer below level 5, and a warning sounds, reminding players to allow their real-life bodies to recuperate. The leader of the Nebulous Guild is furious at her soldier for losing her equipment, and also relying on a level 1 thief to recover it for her. Meanwhile, there is ongoing chatter about a mysterious player who leveled up from 1 to 5 in a single day, which has apparently set the Heavenland forums ablaze. Eventually, he appears again with the staff in his hands. blood smearing his clothes and face. He asks how much they will pay for the weapon back. Eventually, they pay 3 silver coins for the staff back, which doesn't seem like a lot in the grand scheme of things. However, the leader then asks if he's interested in joining the guild, clearly knowing how skilled and powerful he really is. He contemplates this, thinking back to his previous experience as a solo player. Previously, he could have only dreamed of joining a guild, but this time, things are different, at least for now. Meanwhile, a bunch of players request that Ling joins their teams. However, he doesn't accept any of their offers. He arrives back at the shop that he bought the potion and grappling hook from, and the same rowdy players are inside chatting. On his return, he mocks them for not even leveling up once in the time that he became level 5. At the shop, he sells all of his items in return for a large sum of money. He then uses it to buy 20 Molotovs and 3 invisibility potions. Then, next door in the shop, he buys a level 5 whitewood dagger, which he will inevitably use to fight against some powerful enemies. He reveals his plan to be the first player to complete a mythical dungeon, though he only has 2 months before other players discover and complete the dungeon first. After arriving at the Queen Ant's nest, he pledges to be the first to complete it. He reveals one of the ways that players were able to clear the nest, by chugging plenty of invisibility potions. He keeps going through the dungeon, wavering between using the potions and being detected by ants. Eventually, he's only a stone's throw away from the Queen Ant. He throws down the Molotovs, knowing that they are scared of flames. Alongside that, fire attacks have a damage bonus multiplier. The wall of fire protects him from the ant soldiers, while the Queen Ant is entirely useless without them. The next thing we know, he's slain her. However, he's attracted the wrath and hatred of the insect tribe. Next, the Nebulous Guild have called a meeting. They discuss the growing power of the solo thief, and Dira is present. She says that if he joins their guild, they can easily begin to close the gap between them and the other guilds. One of the vice leaders of the Nebulous Guild suggests that they invite him into the guild. However, as they talk, they all receive a system prompt that a player with their information withheld has slain the Queen Ant and attracted the hatred of the insect tribe. They realize this is a good opportunity to scout some new players, as the dungeon is now opened up for them. They head over to the Dark Forest and a mass of players have amalgamated at the dungeon. Loads of players are queuing up outside the shops to gather weapons and supplies, while we revisit Ling. He is contemplating starting his own team and has collected all of the items and supplies that they'll need to clear the dungeon with him. He accepts the mission of the Dark Forest and begins scouting for teammates. He resolves to find people near the Mission Crystal. As he wanders through the town, he sees teams preparing for an upper-level mission, noting that the boss has a mutation phase. He watches teams fail, despite their high level and impressive equipment. It's also clear that even members of the prestigious 5 guilds struggle with upper dungeons from time to time. Then, representatives from the 5 guilds arrive, clearly looking to scout new recruits for their prestige teams. Players across the map are dreaming of an opportunity to join any of the 5 guilds. We then revisit Tiana, who is part of the Nebulous Guild. They are scouting for the 3rd team, and they believe there could be great potential among the players. At the dungeon entrance, there is a big group of players looking for teammates. Ling bumps into the cute girl from before, and her harem of warriors who level her up. Ling asks why they are even there, especially considering how under-leveled they are. Then, they're shocked to find out that he is level 5 already. Then, Ling does something entirely unexpected. He offers to carry them through the dungeon. However, there are some clear-cut conditions. They can't reveal their player information for 3 days, and at the end, Ling keeps one piece of equipment and they keep the rest. The cute girl accepts willingly, while the others are slightly more reluctant. Regardless, they all accept. However, they suddenly regret their decision when Ling tells them which portal they're going into, the Insanity Portal. A huge crowd amasses around Ling and his team of unwitting followers. People have realized that they're about to take on the Insanity Dungeon, and all of the guild leaders suddenly have their attention pointed at it too. They theorize it's either the members of the top guild or a party of players willing to try their luck without really knowing what they've chosen. The crowd whispers that even members of the Celestial Guild were unable to clear the upper difficulty dungeon, so this team of solo players aren't going to stand a chance. Eventually, Captain Bai Li of the Nebulous Guild reaches the inner circle of the crowd to find out who is trying this insane challenge. However, the team have already entered the dungeon, so the guild leader only has words of mouth to go off of. The leaders of the Nebulous Guild are mocked by another guild. the Rank 3 Wolf's Fang Guild. It turns out that 3 of the 5 major guilds have now turned up. There's clearly some tension between the Nebulous Guild and the Wolf Fangs Guild, and Tiana warns her co-members not to start an argument. However, one of the Wolf's Fang Guild members insults her, and with grace and decorum, she deflects the insult incredibly well. As the Nebulous Guild walk away, the Wolf's Fang Guild remark to themselves that at the next monthly Guild Wars, they're going to kill her and make her drop some levels. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Insanity Portal, the party members tremble in the face of the monsters they're sure to face, while Ling, on the other hand, is calm and collected and tells them to keep quiet. Ling, never without a plan, gives them the equipment he had previously purchased. It's all suited to their classes and actually instills them with a bit of confidence. They also realize that these are all equipment pieces with fire attribute attacks, and they wonder how he could afford so much so early on. They're facing off against bug enemies, so fire attribute attacks are going to be particularly effective while fighting against them. The team of solo players equip their items, and suddenly they look more like a well-formed unit rather than a band of travelers co-opted together. Then, Ling takes out a huge crate of Molotov cocktails, 60 in fact. Then our protagonist equips his own armor set, only wearable from level 5 onwards. The level 5 fire attribute Thief's equipment sets Starfire lights Ling ablaze in glory, and the team can't help but admire him a bit now. He reveals that each dungeon has its own set of special abilities, and that this also means that it has its special weaknesses. This eventually makes Insanity dungeons a lot more bearable. They charge forward and get ready to become the first people to clear an Insanity difficulty dungeon. They encounter a level 4 Jagged Scythe Manus, and a cute girl immediately is drawn to her. However, Ling has to reel her back. Insect enemy types are actually hyper-aware, so choose to flee immediately. However, if they do choose to engage in a fight, they have incredible speed and attack power. This is only made worse by their cut ability, which slowly slashes away at their prey's health. They discuss their plan, which is effectively to make their way through the inner circles while engaging as few enemies as possible. There's a crucial element to their plan, the Weeping Bird, which is the key to clearing the dungeon. They're going to use the insect race's natural predator alongside a hidden path to reach the middle, where they're easily going to be able to reach the boss area. It's at this point that Ling realizes it's going to be easier to communicate if they all know each other's nicknames. So, finally, we meet Jae-run, Andy Mainstream, Longface, and Zhao Lan. However, as they're talking, they realize they're right beneath the nest of the Weeping Bird, which suddenly makes their task a lot easier. Ling uses his expert knowledge of Heavenland to feed the birds some bugs which satiates them, before they drop a special item, the Weeping Flute. He then hints at some useful information. There's no useless NPCs in Heavenland, which the party members note down gratefully. They ask how he knows so much about the area, and unable to reveal his true nature, he lies and says that he read about it in the library at Casvito. He reveals the journey that they will have to take through the forest, and that while the shortcut is on paper quite dangerous, the Weeping Flute is going to protect them. As it emulates the sound of the natural insect predators, it renders them terror-stricken and unable to attack. With the item, they move forward confidently. However, Zhao Lan is immediately quite annoyed as they have to walk through a swamp. Ling warns them not to complain, as this is the path of least resistance through the forest. As he says that, giant insects appear. Level 5 silk spiders have a terrifying aura, enough so to freeze the party in their steps. However, Ling uses the Weeping Flute and the spiders stop moving before fleeing in terror. Ling warns him not to get lost, as without him and the flute, they are all terribly vulnerable. Eventually, they reach a safe zone in the forest, or at least they think. Suddenly, they realize where they really are, outside the dungeon boss's portal. The terrified party members hope that Ling has read something about how to beat the boss without having to fight the boss. However, he tells them the truth. They're going to have to rely on their own skill from here on out. They approach the level 5 Mud Dragon, Lord of the Swamp, and an epic battle of skill and power is sure to ensue. They get ready for the boss fight, and it's clear Ling has a master plan to play. They communicate over text chat so as to not startle each other, and they all move into position. Throwing 3 consecutive Molotovs into the Mud Dragon will burn it. which will allow them to defeat it with their current weapons and armor. When it's in burn state, it will receive additional damage from melee and physical attacks, making it easier to defeat. Ling has calculated the optimal distance to throw Molotovs from, that is, both near enough to attack but far enough to evade from. His bounds of knowledge prompt the party members to think that he has some experienced social connections who have told him all of this information. However, they still don't really know the truth. Meanwhile, Ling's role is to lure the boss away from the others, which he can do by using his combo accumulation ability, which stacks consecutive attack power. He launches the first attack on the boss, aggravating it wildly. He begins fighting against it using his thief agility to evade attacks and land sharp blows on the boss. The fight is wild, like a dance in the night, and Ling's natural gaming ability is evident. He knows all of the boss's attacks like the back of his own hand, which makes it easy for him to dodge what would otherwise be brutal blows. He even remembers all of the limits to the boss's skills and uses his backstab ability to slowly slash away at its health. Nearly an hour later, he still hasn't given the signal to his teammates to begin their volleys of Molotovs. Meanwhile, they're all theorizing that he ran away like a coward, though they don't know just how well he is fighting. Eventually, he calls the signal, and a plume of dust heads towards the party. They prepare for attack, perhaps nervously, and he commands them to wait until the boss is in the middle for the fire attacks to start. As it gets closer, they realize that Ling managed to wear down the boss's health to nearly 2/3 empty, which is astounding. Finally, he commands them to fire hell down on the boss, and the Molotovs fly through the air towards it. The boss is suddenly burnt. Though this only enhances the natural rage, it begins to go berserk, which means that the Molotovs are no longer able to be aimed at it. However, Ling's plan is for them to target him instead, which would allow them to hit the boss regardless. They're suddenly apprehensive, but they trust him and fire away. Then, always with a trick up his sleeve, he casts his armor's special ability, which for 30 seconds grants him fire immunity. After the time is up, his next attack will be to apply fire damage, while also multiplying by 5 times to the next target on fire. Meanwhile, outside of the entrance to the dungeon, many of the onlookers are bored and decided to leave. They consider how many of the top guilds were unable to defeat even upper dungeons and theorize that Ling and his party are cowering in some dungeon corner somewhere. The higher-ups in the Nebulous Guild are discussing an item they received from a level 8 dungeon, the Power Breakthrough device, which the Order has still never seen in battle. He reveals that it's a single-use weapon, reserved for being used in a crucial player-versus-player battle. Tiana, on the other hand, unable to engage in the conversation, has her attention firmly rooted on the Insanity Dungeon portal. Her intuition tells her that something magical or concerning is soon to happen. We cut back to the dungeon, and the boss is enraged. It enters berserk mode, and they only have 30 seconds from here to finally defeat it. A single attack would wipe them all out. They continue firing Molotovs at it, which aren't damaging Ling at the moment. He continues using powerful melee attacks to chip away the boss's health, and we see that his attack combo accumulator is nearly over 3,000. Finally, he uses Jet Rush, which uses the player's ability to launch an ultra-powerful attack on an enemy. Ling uses his attack and multiplies it with the Starfire Inferno, blitzing up the boss's body and landing a brutal blow on him. He lands the final strike, and surely the boss must be dead now. Party members, as surprised as they can be, realize that the boss fight is now over. Zhao Lan then remembers that Ling taught her a powerful healing spell, and she uses it to heal the hero from the burn damage which he is now sustaining. Back at the portal entrance, more onlookers are dispersing. Eventually, a system message is broadcast, and everyone realizes that they must be the first people in the game to defeat the dungeon at the insanity level. Everyone is shocked, especially Tiana. She resolves that she must meet the party leader, no matter what. The party, once a group of ragtag cowards, emerges from the portal victorious, ready to bask in the glow of victory. We arrive at the limitless sacred ruins, where the guild wars usually takes place. The dimension reeks of blood, and the clouds have turned red from bloodbath. It is a lawless place used as the battleground for the warring guilds. They all arrive, and when the battle drum sounds, bloody murder is set to ensue. As it begins, the group stays together, wary of immediate oncoming attacks. They decide their first move should be finding a safe place to hide in, and they disperse. We move through the map and see Wasabi and Bailai killing opponents. Wasabi notes that his teammates are still stuck in a trance following the fight with Ling and realizes he won't progress without snapping out of it. Wasabi also notes that he wishes to fight against Ling once again, though it won't happen for a while. He then asks why Bai Li wanted them to come to this strange location, and they realize he must have a plan at play. However, Wasabi is rightly suspicious and cautions that Bai Li isn't thinking right. The next moment, a magical spell traps him and they're ambushed by none other than the Wolf's Fang Guild. They then reveal something horrifying, that Bai Li has betrayed the Nebulous Guild in favor of passing their examination. The final test is revealing the location of Tiana, and then he can join the guild. Meanwhile, Wasabi is furious and enraged that Bai Li has betrayed them. Before Wasabi is about to be killed, Bai Li intervenes and pleads for his life, asking if he can join Wolf's Fang too. However, Wasabi calls him fucking trash, and it's clear where the thief's allegiances lie. Then a voice calls between the Wolf's Fang Guild and their other teammates. They've located Tiana, which prompts the Wolf's Fangs that they think they're about to kill her. However, the call takes a sharp turn, and they reveal that Tiana has an almighty guard with her, Ling, who has slaughtered 4 of the 5 Wolf's Fangs assassins. The only surviving assassin is hiding, but not for long, as Ling has clearly found him. He demands to speak to the vice captain, and there's a seriously threatening look on his face. We cut to 10 minutes before this, and Dira is wondering why they've chosen a location so far away. She even suggests that people will think they're cowards, though Ryuko reassures them. They ask if Ling has a plan, and he suggests that he just wanted to shake off some people following them. Next thing we know, they've grinded to a halt, and they question that move as well. They warn everyone to prepare for battle as the people tailing them are relentless. Meanwhile, the Wolf's Fang assassins are nearby, concealing their location underwater. Ling still manages to detect their presence though he's not sure of their exact position. Eventually, he activates the Great Eagle Eye ability, which grants him higher perception. He uses it to unravel their location, and they realize they're hiding in water. The assassins jump up out of the water, realizing their location is compromised, and they complacently think that their low levels will make this an easy slaughter. How wrong could they be? Ling readies to fight them all head-on, and the assassins split up to take on the group. The fight ensues, and Ryuko steadies his shield bravely to tank all of their damage. With all of their health low, Ling needs his party to help finish them off. Though fear soon wears off and they're looking slightly more competent, he combines Shadow Flash Blink and Bonebreaker to deal critical hit damage on them, and he kills them all but one. Ling threatens the vice captain of the Wolf's Fang Guild and tells him to clean up his neck in preparation. Fear has clearly overcome the Wolf's Fang Guild, while Bai Li laughs to himself. The vice captain of the Wolf's Fang Guild realizes Ling is the one who completed the Insanity Dungeon, and they're shocked to learn that the Nebulous Guild recruited him. They then discuss what they should do about Wasabi and reckon they need to kill him. The thief, on the other hand, has other plans and chooses to withdraw from the guild wars at the cost of an EXP deduction. He tells Bai Li that the next time they will be enemies, and that word of his betrayal will soon spread across Heavenland. After this, Tiana removes him from her friend list, and the reality of his betrayal sinks in. All he has now is the evil Wolf's Fang Guild and nothing else. He's sure to be pursued by the Nebulous Guild, but he swears to get his revenge against both Ling, Tiana, and perhaps now Wasabi too. Back to the Nebulous Guild, they try and get the vice captain's coordinates from the remaining assassin. However, he refuses at first. Then Ling threatens him with death, suggesting that he's going to lose equipment and EXP when he dies. However, not long after hearing this, he gives up the captain's coordinates and thinks he's saved his life. But war is filled with deception, and Ling puts him out of his misery not long after. Tiana then remembers the betrayal and wonders about what has happened to Wasabi. However, she reveals her own ambition further, realizing it is an opportunity to stake more power in the guild. Then, Dira brings over a message talking about the guild's rearrangement following recent events, and they head over to Ling for his advice on what to do next. He's standing over the body of the last Wolf's Gang assassin, with the coordinates in hand. They regroup, and Tiana theorizes the plans of the other guilds. She uses her knowledge of battle to predict their movements, which really impresses Ryuko. Dira then talks about the necessity to acquire kills to rank up in the guild wars. and suggests that perhaps the movements of other guilds is actually really predictable due to this. They belittle Ryuko, perhaps unfairly, before continuing planning their next moves. They plan to head to the center area, which is going to get chaotic towards the end of the guild wars. Ling then comes up with an interesting plan to hide his guild name later on in the fight. It involves using a hidden mask which, unlike hiding the player's information with the system settings, Hidden Mask is a mask where every player possesses one. It will hide the appearance of the user. It is unusable under certain circumstances. Next, they prepare to move to the center area, where a bloodbath is sure to ravage all of the guilds. We arrive at the center with the party, and it's already a brutal battlefield, with dead guild members strewn across the place. We watch as rival guilds take each other on, and a group of fighters are worried about a masked man approaching from behind. It's Ling, wearing a terrifying mask concealing his identity. He holds out his dagger, for what purpose, who knows? Before anyone can react, Ling strikes them from behind, and his purpose becomes clear. He attacks and claims to belong to the Wolf's Fang Guild, clearly a lie to aggravate other guilds against the evildoers. He claims that the rest of the Wolf's Fang Guild will attack in 30 seconds if they do not clear the area, and disappears into the blood-red mist. We traverse through the battlefield, and each guild has stories of the masked Wolf's Fang Guild member attacking them, but not killing them. Each guild comes to the conclusion that they need to gang up on the Wolf's Fang Guild and make them pay for what Ling has done. His master plan reveals itself suddenly. Meanwhile, the rest of the Nebulous party discuss Ling's plan, and Tiana considers what power and confidence he must have to pull off such a fantastic plan. Only Ling could even dream of trying it, she concludes. Meanwhile, in the center, the Wolf's Fang Guild appears, only to be instantly attacked by the mob. Flames engulf the vice captain, despite the appearance of his innocence. However, he has a sudden feeling that even a larger threat is yet to appear, which he calculates as Ling's killer presence. Then, the thief appears and uses critical backstabs on the Wolf's Fang Guild members and murders them. However, they have no idea where he is, as he uses his incredible agility and invisibility skills to appear like the mist. The vice leader of the Wolf's Fang casts gravitational pressure, which erects a gravitational field around the caster. Enemies inside will be pressured into their movement speed and skill speed, seeing huge decreases. Inside the field, the Wolf's Fang Guild think they're safe, until they continue to be picked off one by one. Ling starts with the girl, who cries out to be saved from the killer. However, it is likely way too late. Despite all of the debuffs, Ling's speed is still imperceptible, and the Wolf's Fang Guild members are suddenly all wary of their impending doom. Meanwhile, as all of the smaller guilds head toward the Wolf's Fang, the Nebulous Guild heads off into the opposite direction to a set of important coordinates. Apparently, there's a gift waiting for Tiana when she arrives there, and they're all eagerly anticipating what it could be. However, when they get there, they're shocked to see Ling carrying someone on his back. It's the Wolf's Fang Guild member last seen attacked by our dangerous protagonist. Ling recalls that this was the woman who had previously provoked Tiana outside the Insanity Portal, and she screams out furiously to just wait until the rest of the Wolf's Fang Guild arrives. The other party members are slightly taken aback that Ling would kidnap someone, so Tiana demands for her to be untied. They do so, and the girl claims that they will be spared if she is returned to the Wolf's Fang Guild. However, it seems that Tiana has other ideas. She begins casting what looks like a powerful spell, and the Wolf's Fang Guild members attack her quickly. However, Tiana casts Vine Lock on her, which binds her body together and drags her deep down into the earth. The last thing she says is that she'll remember this before she disappears forever. Tiana thanks Ling for the gift, however morbid and violent it really was. Before they head back to the center arena, Ling reveals that he needs someone's help to do something back here. They're all wondering who it is, before Ling picks up the last person on everyone's mind, Ryuko Zong. Shocked to receive Ling's approval, they fist bump in what looks like the start of a very powerful friendship. Back in the center, the Wolf's Gang Guild realize that their teammate had just been killed, and they quickly gather all their resources in order to kill the thief who had been messing with them. They realize they need to call in all the other Wolf's Fang Guild divisions in order to defeat Ling, despite how cowardly and weak they're going to look after this. Meanwhile, the vice leader of the Wolf's Fang Guild swears that he will kill Ling if he's hurt his woman, which certainly seems to have been the case. Meanwhile, Bai Li watches on, looking forward to seeing his throat slashed at the end of all of this. Just then, a flying shield attack hits the Wolf's Fang Guild vice leader, stunning him. Immediately, he is shocked to see such a tiny child attacking him, before realizing he's part of the Nebulous Guild. Then Ling appears behind him, striking fear into his very core. He claims the other Wolf's Fang Guild members are on their way, but claims that he'll kill them before anything can happen. He casts his strongest fire spell, Raging Flame Dance, which is apparently revenge for hurting his woman. However, as he's casting, Ling belittles him for trying to attack an insanely fast thief with magic. Up close and personal, Ling uses Bone Breaker, which deals incredible amounts of damage. However, they know the Wolf's Fang Guild are en route, so they make a swift exit as they still have something else to do. Bai Li stands over the withering body of the Wolf's Fang Guild member and reminds him that he also knows what it feels like to see your woman snatched away from you. He reminds him of the importance of not losing the war and that he's an experienced 3rd Division captain and he needs immediate control of all of the troops. The vice captain grants him the power, and they command the troops to target Ling and the Nebulous Guild. We cut back to Ling and Ryuko Zong, who are taking on more of the Wolf's Fang Guild. They are currently distressed following the defeat of their vice leader. Ryuko notes how Ling and him are like a sword and shield, working in perfect harmony to defeat enemies. As they continue fighting, Ryuko won't stop talking and asking questions, and Ling realizes he's never going to feel lonely ever again after this. The little shield tank thinks back to the moment when Ling incorporated him into the group, and remembers the reasons he was allowed to join. Ryuko is prepared to give everything and try his absolute hardest to become the best, even if that means sacrificing his health for the sake of his teammates. However, Ling asks him a question: "Do you have any special abilities or skills?" Ling thinks back to his previous life, where he remembers the Sacred Mountain Ryuko to have incredible special abilities. However, Ryuko reveals that he does have something in mind. It's a blessing called bravery. This confirms what Ling had heard in his previous life was true. Heavenland contains unknown special skills, equipment, and additional attributes, and that any player can receive this reward as long as they're lucky. He reveals that he received a strange quest at level 3, and after completing it, received something called bravery, though he hasn't figured out how to use it effectively. They observe the blessing, which says, "Be fearless and stand tall, like a mountain cutting through clouds." However, his reminiscing is cut short by the appearance of the Wolf's Fang Guild. He remembers who they are, the 3 who ambushed him and cursed him not long before he joined the Nebulous Guild. Then, another familiar voice appears, Bai Li, the temporary vice captain of the Wolf's Fang Guild. Swearing his revenge, they face off against Ling and Ryuko. The little mountain is clearly quite afraid, though Ling reassures him and reminds him they're always prepared for fierce battle. However, before they can begin, they hear Tiana over the voice chat, who calls them to retreat and wait for Nebulous Guild backup. They quickly arrive, and there's quite a large team of Nebulous with Ling again. Despite Ling's disapproval of their arrival, they remind him he's a teammate and nobody is left behind. He remembers his previous life spent alone and miserable, and realizes just how lucky he is to be in this position now. He warns them to prepare for what could be one of the most dangerous battles of their lives, though Tiana spots Bai Li before they can continue. Shocked to learn that he is now their temporary captain, she calls him a traitor, alongside Dira, who calls him fucking scum, and the dog of the Wolf's clan. Now an epic battle between Nebulous and Wolf's Fang is about to ensue, with Tiana, Bai Li, Dira, Ryuko, and Ling positioned right at the heart of it. Fire and magic swirls through the air, and bodies blend into one, as the 2 warring guilds trade blow for blow, life for life. Tiana and Dira, clearly experienced fighting alongside each other, take on enemies with relative ease, while the Wolf's Fang fights back with tooth and nail. Dira casts an incredibly powerful sword attack that wipes out an enemy, while other Wolf's Fang turn their attention to her. Tiana casts a magical protection spell to defend them, though the Wolf's Fang break through them with melee attacks. However, a joint backstab from Ryuko and Ling protects them. The group defends each other seamlessly, and they begin to look like an incredibly powerful unit together. You wouldn't know that this is their first time fighting alongside each other. Ling casts a super powerful air slice, dealing incredible amounts of damage to the Wolf's Fang attackers, while they realize they've run out of recovery potions. However, Tiana has a trick up her sleeves. She casts Fine Cage, which protects them all for the time being. However, their shield wall breaks instantly as a powerful magic attack cracks down on it from above. We realize that the attack has penetrated through the heart of one of the Nebulous Guild members, and we find out that it was Bai Li who fired the attack. The new temporary captain of the Wolf's Fang is using his knowledge of the Nebulous Guild's abilities to attack them, rather cowardly, and it seems as though the advantage shifts to the hands of the evildoers. More enemies are inbound for Nebulous, who try and heal their injured teammate. The Wolf's Fang try and take this opportunity to attack while they're vulnerable, while Ling says that he needs something drastic from little Ryuko. He says he's going to go and kill someone, while Ryuko needs to stay behind and protect their teammates. However, the little child is anxious about this, realizing that the amount of enemies here may be out of his depths. However, Ling reminds him that if he wants to become the strongest shield ever, he has to do this and be brave for his teammates. Finally, he reveals what it really means to show everyone his bravery. As Ling rushes off to fight against the Wolf's Fang alone, Ryuko doubts his own abilities and quivers in fear. Dira and Tiana try and protect them with their skills, however, it may not be enough. As attacks rain down on the Nebulous Guild, Ryuko realizes what he has to do. He screams out that he doesn't want to lose his teammates, and as attacks rain down on them from above, he finally manages to activate his bravery. He erupts into electric flames and seems to grow tenfold in size. His blessing has finally been activated, and at the right time. The Wolf's Fang Guild all redirect their attacks towards the giant, though he eats them up easily. Meanwhile, Ling realizes his plan to drive him to his lowest point was all that was needed to activate bravery, and he praises his own cunning. It is now confirmed that little Ryuko is the one known as the Sacred Mountain Ryuko Zong, and the Wolf's Fang can't help but stare at the colossal being tearing through the mist. Bai Li, on the other side of the battlefield, is shocked as he has never seen Ryuko before, and the Sacred Mountain casts destructive field which shakes the ground and terrifies the enemies. The Wolf's Fang Guild attempts to regroup and attack accordingly. However, the cracks are starting to show under Bai Li's leadership. However, the Nebulous Guild realizes they've all been buffed by something, and all of their defense stats have increased by 50%. Then, Ryuko casts Meteorite Grenade against the enemy, and the attack annihilates their formation. Just then, Ling appears with a dagger at Bai Li's neck. He casts Flow against him, pushing him back and killing 3 other Wolf's Fang members alongside him. Next, Ling attacks the Wolf's Fang member who trapped him early on, and he kills him with the attack he learned from there. Eventually, it seems as though the Wolf's Fang Guild have been wiped out, and the Nebulous Guild can safely retreat. They finish the Guild Wars with the most points, despite still being 5th in the rankings, though Ling is not ready for the system message that is read out after this. Congratulations to level 15 player Dark Lines for becoming Heavenland's first ever player to successfully change jobs. Once the dust from the Guild Wars is settled, members of the Nebulous Guild find themselves seeking comfort and solace in the familiar sounds of their favorite tavern. Their leader, Tiana, was quick to remind her comrades that they should moderate their drinking. After all, the game they're in has implemented a drunk system. In the warm, convivial atmosphere of the tavern, they expressed gratitude to Ryuko for the considerable part he played in their victory. Accepting their praise with a nod of humble acknowledgement, he joined them in reciprocating the sentiment. Ling's name was brought up as a key contributor, and his absence from the celebration became a matter of speculation among the guild members. Why wasn't he there to share in the collective joy of their victory? Ryuko, being the thoughtful and analytical member that he was, suggested that Ling's odd behavior might be tied to the recent system message which had visibly affected him. Shifting focus, we find Ling, our central character, immersed in solitary training. The sting of Dark Line's rapid progression gnawed at him, and his recent ascension to the status of the First Awakened left a bitter taste in Ling's mouth. He conceded that relaxation was a luxury he couldn't afford anymore. The call for stronger alliances was now more pressing than ever. Suddenly, Ling detected a subtle hint of another's presence in his vicinity. Using his honed tracking skills, he followed the trace to its source. But the elusive nature of his quarry left him with a sense of their potent abilities. Only someone of exceptional skill could evade Ling for so long. After a lengthy search, he came upon a mysterious chest. Just as he was about to open the chest, he identified the elusive figure, Dark Lines. A resolve firmed up in Ling's heart to confront his rival. Yet before he could take action, Dark Lines vanished from sight. In the following instant, Dark Lines appeared behind Ling, questioning his actions in an unsettling tone. "Planning to confront me?" he queried, leaving a pregnant pause as the chapter drew to a close. Feeling threatened by Dark Lines, Ling explains he had no idea who was out there at first and simply wanted to find out who was out there. Dark Lines laughs this off, revealing he's perhaps not as threatening as he seems. Our protagonist introduces himself. However, Dark Lines is hearing none of it. He shrugs him off, saying that each day countless people challenge him to a battle, to no avail, of course. He tells Ling to move on and level up so that he can open his chest in peace. However, Ling, ever the stubborn one, goes ahead and claims that he plans to challenge Dark Lines no matter what, despite the level difference between the two. Reluctantly, the Awakened accepts the challenge. Ling is calculating what his best options are and resigns to the fact that he can only defeat him using the combo accumulation abilities he used against the Mud Dragon. He is wary of the warrior's Warcry ability, though Dark Line seems entirely uninterested in strategy. Ling begins circling him incredibly fast and tries to take his opportunity to strike with a backstab, though Dark Lines manages to catch him by the throat mid-air. He slams him down against the ground with a powerful attack before congratulating Ling on his abilities. However, he reminds him that he is still too weak. He even goes as far to say that he's a waste of time, the same as everyone else who challenges him. Dark Lines begins walking away with contempt for Ling in his voice as our protagonist grapples with his recent defeat. As he does this, the glorious insignia begins to glow golden, perhaps channeling his rage. Electric sparks begin to fly from Ling's body, and Dark Lines notices this. He charges over to Ling once again and demands to learn where he found this item. The level 15 warrior is shocked that Ling has this item and asks him if he's still only a candidate and laughs that he hasn't even awakened yet. Ling asks how Dark Lines knows about the dust-laden proof of the glorious, and the warrior seems surprised to learn that there's more than one. He tells Ling that he's still a candidate and that he should continue exploring through this world to achieve great things. He gets ready to leave once again, this time saying he'll remember Ling's name. He says that their fight is over and that they will probably meet again in the future when Ling is strong enough. However, for now, he's going to keep training so he doesn't let down his expectations. Ling pledges that the next time he encounters him, he will defeat him. In fact, he will go as far as to take the title of Heavenland's top player for him. Back in the real world, Ling has been calculating a plan. He says he has to plan his training and group building carefully. As he thinks about all of these things, he sleepwalks through his life without paying much attention to anything. He returns to the game and kicks off his full equipment plan. He bumps into Ryuko Zong once again, who is relishing in his recent opportunity to gloat to people who had once rejected him from joining their team. He explains how mad he was for them not knowing who Ling was and talks incessantly. Our protagonist tells him they're waiting for one other person before they go leveling up together. Ryuko tries to guess who this will be. Meanwhile, Ling thinks about how he needs to maintain a relationship with Tiana for now. He remembers a recent conversation with Tiana, at which she thinks he's planning to leave Nebulous, though he says the opposite, that he wants to stay and make use of their resources. Then he asks for another favor, Wasabi's contact details. We cut back to the present moment, and Ling and Ryuko see Wasabi arrive ready for training. They chatter to each other between themselves, considering the political aspirations of each, before they cut to the chase and Ling explains he's not interested in rising through the ranks of the guild. Then, Ling reveals that he needed Wasabi to source members of the 2nd Division, as the 3rd Division would not be powerful enough to challenge this dungeon. Suggesting he could hardly get them to accept the offer, it seems as though Wasabi was scraping the barrel slightly. The new teammates arrive, and they look intimidating, powerful, and slightly menacing. They pick on Ryuko immediately and suggest that 3rd Division members could never complete this dungeon. Ling then introduces himself as the captain of the group. Without delay, the recently added teammates are in utter disbelief, quite upset that a level 7 thief should be given the reins of a squad embarking on a dungeon of such monumental challenge. Nevertheless, Wasabi steps forward, presenting the idea that the one they deem as underqualified. He further proposes that if there are any objections or concerns, they should take it up directly with Ling. As anticipated, the new members don't shy away from asserting their views, putting forth the name of Dark Cliff as the rightful leader of the dungeon expedition. Ling, in response, denies outright, stating that he wouldn't possess the necessary skills to steer them through the madness of an insanity-level dungeon. The reaction of Wasabi to this is notable. He exhibits a ripple of shock and then proceeds to complain about the potential drain on resources this could cause. He makes a valid point to Ling, reminding him that despite his impressive feat of defeating the Insanity Level 7 Dark Forest dungeon, a Level 10 Insanity dungeon is a completely different ballgame. Ling is subjected to mockery from his own team for even thinking about the daunting task ahead. They further reveal the daunting fact that even the creme de la creme of guild members struggle with dungeons of this intensity. Suddenly, a new character materializes behind Dark Cliff, labeled by his game tag as the Hammer in the Corner. Decked out in resplendent gold, Dark Cliff addresses him as Hammer Bro. As it turns out, he holds the position of a Celestial Guild member from the Elite 1st Division no less, and it seems that Nebulous and Celestial share a good rapport. Although he's not the most powerful in the guild, his influence is extensive, reaching to the higher-ups in the other guilds. Alongside that, he also shares a good relationship with the Guild Master of the Celestials, known by the moniker the Unrivaled Blue Cloud. Hammer Bro proceeds to inquire about Ling's strategy for the task ahead. Ling, unabashed, declares his intentions to take on the formidable Insanity-level Broken Buddha dungeon. After introducing himself as Ling, Hammer Bro is taken aback, recognizing Ling as a prominent figure from the Guild Wars. Hammer Bro enlightens the group about Ling's recent achievements in the game, a revelation that shocks the group, who had not been able to participate previously due to their ongoing dungeon commitments. Suddenly, the group's hesitation about the dungeon adventure wanes slightly. Hammer Bro appears to be rather in awe of Ling, fostering some enthusiasm within the group. Ryuko chimes in, starting to reveal some of Ling's other notable feats, but Ling promptly silences him. Hammer Bro requests to be a part of the upcoming mission. Ling approves, even though Ryuko was hoping to hold the position of the only tank in the team. Hammer Bro's inclusion seems to be enough to rally the remaining team members. As they traverse through the mystical portal, Ling is aware that successful completion of certain stages of the mission will yield the coveted petrification ring. Ling states that this is the only treasure he seeks from the dungeon, suggesting that the other members can share the remaining loot amongst themselves. The team members are taken aback by this information, exhibiting a mix of surprise and skepticism about the existence of the petrification ring. Ling reassures them, saying they'll believe it when they lay their eyes on it. He reminds them to remain vigilant, as there are dangerous creatures lurking in the vicinity, including blind and deaf monks. They warn each other not to underestimate them too, as they spot Silent Monk. Ryuko, quivering with fear, complains to Ling about why they've chosen such a scary dungeon, but the boss reassures him with a grappling hook, which will surely come in handy at some point. They try to figure out what the best course of action is, and Ling suggests that they try the grouping method, whatever that is. We're now at the end of this recap of the game that I came from, and we're left wondering what Ling's master plan could look like. Alongside that, the ever-present question lingers still. Will our heroic protagonist ever become an awakened? Will he meet dark lines again? And what exactly is the proof of the glorious? Immediately, the horde of people surround them. They are instant idols, adored by those envious of their abilities. They're asked hundreds of questions by the crowd, but they keep their silence. They plan to leave together and split their reward. However, they're first approached by the Wolf's Fang Guild. They desperately try and get them to join. However, Ling refuses due to bad experiences with them in his previous life. He remembers them hogging monster spawn points across the map and stopping solo players from leveling up. while also unfairly challenging them to PvP. Then the Wolf's Fang Guild representative asks who their leader is, Ling. However, Ling has other things on his mind, and he knows that the server closes in 2 hours. They don't have much time left and need to get things sorted ASAP. However, the Wolf's Fang are not happy with Ling's silence and demand him to answer their questions. However, Ling walks on, completely uninterested in the Wolf Fang Guild's advances. The insulted guild representative is having none of our hero's disrespect and challenges Ling to a duel. However, before Ling can even respond, he's attacked by a fireball. As he's been attacked himself, if Ling fights back and kills a Wolf Fang's guild member, he won't be punished with a red name. As we've typically seen from Ling, his movement speed is unparalleled, and he dodges the fireball with ease before attacking back. However, before the fight can continue, Tiana erects a wall of vines between the two, stopping them from attacking. Her instincts tell her that this must be the one who defeated the Insanity Dungeon, and she is drawn towards Ling. She intervenes, claiming Ling is a friend of the Nebulous Guild before threatening the Wolf's Fang Guild with war if they don't settle down. Eventually, the Wolf's Fang Guild back down. However, they don't leave without a threat. At the next Guild Wars, they promise to fight till their last breath. Finally, they leave. In the aftermath, the Wolf's Fang Guild members discuss why they backed down, and even they couldn't face the consequence of starting an all-out war. We cut back to Ling and Tiana, who are discussing recent events and how they kind of owe her now that she saved them. However, she has a proposition for them. She needs their help. Her request is as such: if they can join the guild for a short time and help them in the next Guild Wars, they will all be rewarded handsomely. However, off the bat, Ling refuses. He explains his decision, that he doesn't plan to join a guild anytime soon, nor does he want to be restricted by them in any way. She even goes as far as to plead for his help, raising the issue of the upcoming Guild Wars once again. However, even after considering removing any restrictions that would be placed on him, Ling still refuses. Her plead for help continues, and she explains the history between Nebulous and Wolf's Fang, that it spawned from two guilds warring against each other to gain power and status. She even stakes her own life, suggesting it's at risk for protecting him. Ling, always with a calculated answer, tells her not to engage in the upcoming guild war. However, that doesn't seem to be an option for her. Ling only answers by offering a friend request and stating that he may reconsider closer to the guild war starting. Meanwhile, in the background, one of Tiana's teammates watches on, scornfully growing a grudge against Ling for some jealous reason. He returns to his party members and discusses the distribution of equipment, money, and treasure. He keeps a powerful Assassin's Arm Guard, which has the highest agility stat bonus for thieves below level 10, and then splits the money with the others. He even remapped experience, so that the others leveled up without as much experience going to himself. Ling surely is a selfless hero. He finally logs off and helps the old man with some cleaning and chores around the house. In the next 3 days, Ling and his teammates repeatedly challenged the Insanity Dungeon, and they continued leveling up. At the end of the 3 days, Ling had fully equipped the entire assassin's set of armor. After this, he disbanded the group of followers, and despite their arguments, they part ways. However, he promises to meet them all again. Our hero heads on to his next objective, the Castle of the Singing Moon, a level 10 map. Upon his arrival, he encounters a level 10 corpse-seeking evil spirit and remarks that the 4-level difference between the two of them should be a cause for concern. It's likely he could defeat one of them in combat, but should a horde appear, he'd be in serious trouble. His only option is to use his agility stat bonuses to evade them carefully, which he does with a hint of style. He reveals his purpose is not to challenge the level 10 boss of the Castle of the Singing Moon, but instead to find the skill book at the waterfall. However, as he traverses the map, he finds the corpses of evil spirits and realizes that players have already begun challenging the dungeon. He eventually finds a chest and notes that opening it will curse him with debuff. However, he proceeds anyway, convinced that the treasure inside will be worth it. After opening the chest, he's hit with a curse lasting 6 hours, reducing all of his abilities by 60%. He takes the scroll out and will need to take a few hours to learn it. However, after he opens it, he hears some strange voices in the background. "Captain, you're a genius. Having some idiot open it and bear the curse, then steal it from them." Shocked, Ling doesn't know what to do. He's approached by a group of 3 ranging between level 10 and 11, clearly much more powerful than himself. In his quiet moments, Ling ponders. He imagines that, minus the curse he's bearing, he could have taken on the trio with aplomb. However, under the yoke of the debuff, the scales of battle are tipping against him. We learn something about his foes. They're all members of the notorious Wolf's Fang Guild. They jeer at him, baiting him, coaxing him to surrender the coveted scroll. A sinking realization dawns on Ling. Even if he does surrender it, they won't spare him. The scroll will not be his shield. He resolutely refuses their demand and stashes the scroll safely away. Bracing himself for the inevitable confrontation, he assumes his fighting posture. As the first one readies himself to launch an attack, Ling swiftly deploys his backstab move, hoping to seize the first strike advantage. But his hopes are quickly dashed. The attack is casually blocked, his agility compromised by his current condition. His mind races, searching for any items he could use to tilt the battle in his favor. But before he can act, he experiences the sting of a backstab. His health points plummet, taking Ling perilously close to his demise. Yet he's not done. By executing precise, calculated micro-movements derived from his arsenal of skills, he dodges and retaliates effectively. The members of the Wolf's Fang Guild find themselves taken aback, their smirks replaced with expressions of surprise at his prowess. Ling makes a tactical move, throwing down a smoke bomb. Amid the ensuing cloud of smoke, he uses a grappling hook to make his escape. But just as he's swinging through the air, a barrage of projectiles rains down on him. He plummets through the open air, and as he descends, he makes a vow. He won't forget the Wolf's Fang Guild who sought his downfall. His fall was broken by a waterfall, and his enemies are convinced that he's succumbed to the fall damage. However, in a last-minute save, our protagonist manages to gulp down a recovery potion just prior to impact, thwarting the lethal blow. Time ticks away, and Ling later reaches out to Tiana. He contemplates her previous proposal, and it seems he's finally ready with a response. He accepts her offer. Tiana promises to set the examination at the earliest opportunity, and Ling confidently assures her that he's prepared to face it immediately. Meanwhile, over at the headquarters of the Nebulous Guild, word is getting around the ranks of the foot soldiers. There was an unusual event about to happen, a special examination on the horizon for one person only. This was peculiar, especially since the usual batch of examinations had only just drawn to a close. The first of his kind to brave the examination in solitude, Ling has garnered quite a bit of attention. An unexpected mass of onlookers keen to watch this lone challenger has gathered. Ling can't quite figure out the fascination with him. Surely, he thinks, they could be using this time to improve their own skills. However, their interests are not his concern. Joining the crowd of spectators, Tiana finds herself standing next to Dira. Both of them are keenly observing Ling as he readies himself for the challenge. They exchange thoughts on how vital it is for their guild to secure Ling's membership. Tiana is quietly musing, deciding this is the optimal path to accomplishing her mysterious objective. The scene then unfolds to present Captain Bai Li and Wasabi, both familiar faces who are curious to meet the infamous thief Tiana can't stop talking about. They explain to Ling the layout of the test, a 10-minute duel against a fellow guild member. However, overcome by envy and curiosity about Tiana's new obsession, Bai Li announces he will personally participate in the examination. Tiana immediately raises her objections, but Ling seems unperturbed. Stepping into the arena with an air of confidence, Ling gears up for the duel. Tiana provides him with an examination observation device, a handy tool to capture his gaming style, historical performance, and stats. The device, however, picks up on a sizable debuff lingering from his curse, which won't lift for about another 10 minutes. With the duel about to commence, a throng of onlookers has assembled again. Ling, however, is hardly bothered by the spectacle. He's itching to get this over with and get back to his relentless level grinding. Once the fight is accepted, Bai Li wastes no time and launches into an aggressive onslaught with his archer skills. Ling, however, knows his thief abilities are naturally advantaged against archers. Still, he can't help but note the guild captain is more than just his class. Unfolding before him is an archer heavily leaning on agility, with attacks specifically designed to limit mobility. Ling realizes he needs to tread cautiously in this battle. As the clash kicks off, Bai Li barrages Ling with a storm of attacks which Ling deftly defends. But the archer follows up with explosive attacks that are a greater challenge to deflect. Tiana, watching from the sidelines, is astounded to see that his examination score is at 85, a mere few points shy of her own, even with a 60% debuff weighing him down. As the curse's expiration draws nearer, Tiana is anxious to see how Ling's score will fare when the debuff is finally lifted. The fight continues, and Ling tries to close the gap between himself and his opponent, noting his aggravator's hostility written all over his face. He leaps forward and uses his backstab ability, though Bai Li uses a powerful blinding counter which takes our hero by surprise. Ling takes huge amounts of damage, and Wasabi reveals that he knows that Ling has taken a huge debuff before the fight. Back between Ling and the captain, the thief is being taunted by the archer, who claims his performance has not been very good at all. Ling bites back, suggesting that Bai Li is taking out his anger on him for some reason. He heads into the forest, possibly using the different terrain to his advantage. Tiana and Wasabi follow him there, as they know the debuff is soon to expire. In the forest, the captain realizes he can no longer find his enemy. At this moment, we find out that the debuff has now expired, and the captain may now be in trouble. Meanwhile, the guild examination device starts skyrocketing as Ling's score goes through the roof, nearly doubling on the previous figure. We cut back to the fight, and the captain is violently being massacred, so much so that he bursts into a rage of distress. The jealous guild captain disabled the exam mode and launches a powerful attack against Ling, hoping to kill him, though the thief dodges it and casts backstab to appear behind his enemy. Thinking that he has time to counter, the captain attacks back, though Ling's increased speed gives him a speed advantage and he strikes down on Bai Li. He points his dagger at Bai Li and threatens to kill him before Wasabi intervenes. However, Ling threatens to kill them both. Bai Li struggles to get up from the floor, and Wasabi gets ready to fight. Wasabi says that his experience as a thief is the only thing that allows him to challenge Ling, and that the captain should stay down. Tiana commands them to stop, but Bai Li, embarrassed in front of his crush, pledges to use that move. He flies up into the air and rains down Absolute Zero Array, an incredibly powerful attack it seems. It's an area of effect attack that will harm both enemies and allies, and Ling is seemingly trapped in the circle. Wasabi charges into the middle with a lethal backstab to attack Ling, but he notices his attack hasn't landed properly. Then we find out that Ling deployed a decoy in the circle and has been infected with a fear attack, rendering him unable to move. Trapped in the circle, Wasabi fears for his life before Bai Li realizes that he has no idea where his actual opponent is. Then he appears and reveals that he used the evil spirit's invisibility attack to disappear. Meanwhile, Wasabi has used his trump card, the single-use attack he was saving for leveling up in the PvP arena, which grants him a 90% stat increase for 15 seconds when used. He challenged Ling before our hero knocks out Captain Bai Li. Ling realizes his opportunity to go all out against an opponent, which he has not had the opportunity to do since his last playthrough of the game. Meanwhile, the measuring device continues skyrocketing, surpassing 300 points. Ling recalls his thirst for power in his previous life, which is what has driven him to this moment. He stands against Wasabi, who is glowing red with power. This is what has awoken the hot-blooded emotions in Ling once again. Wasabi has no regret using the power breakthrough device and wants to taste his opponent's full power. Within 15 seconds left, they attack each other with full force. A flurry of violent, agile, and near invisible to the naked eye attacks are traded between the two, with the pinnacle of strength clearly on show. However, Ling still manages to pull out all of the stops against Wasabi, who is surprised by his opponent's speed. As the fight continues, we cut to Ling's former party members, who are relishing the memories of their former leader. It seems as though they have managed to level up quickly despite his departure, and they're enjoying a little bit of wealth. One of them recalls Ling's game mechanics and playstyle, and decides that they're top-time state. This state is when a gamer achieves full harmony with their in-game character, enhancing their reaction speeds and game mechanics. This state allows players to break the game's limits and do the impossible. Back to the fight, Wasabi is still being vastly outmatched by Ling, who is dodging and interrupting attacks that would otherwise be impossible. Finally, Ling stabs Wasabi, who decides to hold on to the weapon inside his gut to stop our hero from attacking. However, Ling continues attacking powerfully without it and eventually disarms Wasabi. Instantly, the guild member concedes defeat. Ling passes the examination to join the guild. Tiana and Wasabi remind him that the guild wars are in 2 days, though Bai Li has disappeared without saying a word. At the end, Wasabi asks what Ling's points were reading, and she says 86, lower than all of the other opponents. However, she knows the truth, that Ling's points were actually 993. Later on, we're at the level 7 map, the Boundless Desert. Our hero Ling effortlessly faces off against a horde of wolves, maneuvering between them with ease and attacking at just the right moment. He unveils a new move, Throat Slasher, which beheads one of the wolves instantly, and then another, Shadow Flash Blink, which feints a powerful wolf before casting Flow through it to deal consecutive damage. Clearly, Ling's abilities have multiplied since last we saw him. His final attack, Bonebreaker, kills the enemy. As he completes the task, Wolf Slaughter, he decides that he's not leveling up fast enough, and that he has to seek out a group in order to level quicker. He receives an urgent call from Tiana, who tells him the guild wars are just about to start. Having not realized, he apologizes and heads over there immediately. Upon his arrival, he bumps into Dira again, and Tiana introduces them as a group of players she can trust. She explains there are limits to how many people can partake in the guild wars, suggesting that those that are involved have been carefully selected. Tiana clearly commands undying loyalty from her followers, which Ling fetishes slightly. Ling then says that he's never taken part in guild wars before and asks if there's anything important he should know. Essentially, the more kills a guild takes, the more points they can acquire. This directly affects guild rank and also exhibits their strength. Our protagonist thinks the format of the guild wars favors the big 5 guilds, which it does. But there is a way for smaller guilds to profit. This is called the Way of Survival, which is an agreed-upon rule that the smaller guilds won't provoke the bigger guilds, and so fighting stays within rank. Ling has a private request for Tiana, which he reveals to be that he wants to form a group within Nebulous that doesn't abide by their tier system. He will form the group himself and lead it too, after making them take the examinations for the guild, of course. She asks if he has decided on any members yet, though he hasn't yet. He acknowledges it will be hard to source members, but is determined irrespective. Tiana accepts, though she needs to promise he will never betray her. He admits he is not that type of person, which we've already seen through his adventures in Heavenland. As they're talking, they hear someone begging to become part of the group. Both Tiana and Ling turn their attention to them and realize it's a small child. Little Ryuko, already a member of the Nebulous Guild, plans to become an all-powerful tank, though the guild refuses to let him participate due to his young age and possibility of dying. However, Ling learns his name, Ryuko Zong, which strikes terror and fear in his soul. He realizes who he is, one of the 6 divine shields named the Secret Mountain Ryuko. The guild tries to turn Ryuko away. However, Ling intervenes and said that his hard work is going to make everything interesting. He offers his hand, asking him to join his group, and though he doesn't know it, it would kickstart the formation of Shadow, the highly respected and legendary group of Heavenland. And thus the guild wars begin.